what exactly is a business model and how does it differ from a business plan? A business model is, of course, different from a business plan. So what does it do? It's like a dashboard. It shows the organization, the creation, the delivery, and the capture of values, which means that it revolves actually around value, and it has at its core the customer, and that value revolves around the customer. So it's like a dashboard that shows you exactly how you are going to address what you have and how you are going to create value for that customer in terms of product, service, and all the channels that are going to lead you to that customer. So it's a great overall look of that position and where you are today or where you want to be eventually whenever you start the business up. Now, a business model, on the other hand, tells you how much stuff, time and money you need to put your business model into effect. So the business plan, I'm not saying that the business plan is a step before the business model or it's a step after. I'm just saying that the business plan gets in more details about what is needed to make that business successful, whereas a business model actually tells you about the value of your business and of your product or services vis-a-vis the customer. So here is the business model canvas. This is how it looks. Okay, you have the 9 building blocks of it. Last week we saw the right side part of it, which is centered around the value propositions, the customer segments, and then the customer relationship management with the customer himself, the channels that were or are used to address that customer, and the revenue streams, meaning how we are making money for the business. Today, we're going to take a look at the left part of the business model canvas, which details more the key partners, what are the key activities that this company is doing or your company is doing, what are the key resources that you have in hand to be able to work on that project of yours, and the cost structure, or what are the costs entailed for you to be able to launch your business properly. So taking a look further at the internal elements of that business model, okay, as we said, you have the key activities, the key partners, key resources, and the cost structure. Let us start with the key resources. What are the key resources? The key resources are the elements that are necessary for you to be able to launch that business of yours, and without which you cannot actually do anything. So they are the assets that you should own, okay, and that are focused on that business of yours. So they can be split into the human capital, the financial capital, and the ideas themselves, whether the idea itself of the product or the brainstorming that makes us enhance that product. So the concept is, if you have, for instance, a lot of money and a lot of ideas, or one very good idea, if you do not have the team that will help you implement this idea, okay, so you have something missing. If, on the other hand, you have the team and you have the idea, but you don't have the money, it's also a block whereby you cannot actually develop that idea because you need the capital or the money for it. So you see, the key resources are those main elements that are going to help you kick off that business. Now, when we say the main elements, there are also, you need to know that there are also other elements that are resources, but that are not as key or should not be on your business model at this point, okay, because they come later on. So for instance, let's say in your business model or in your business type, okay, you need to have an office for you to be able to meet with the team. But maybe at this point, it is not crucial for you to have the office. You can meet in your house, you can meet in a coffee shop, etc. So while the office in itself is or could be a resource, okay, it is not key at this very point for you to have the office as much as it is key for you to have the team or to have the idea or to have the money. So as I was telling you, you have different types of key resources. You have physical, you have the intellectual, which is the brand patents, the copyrights, the data, or the idea itself. You have the human capital, which is the team that is going to help you actually develop that idea and turn it into a business. And of course, you have the financial resource, which is the money that you need for you to be able to run your day-to-day operations, or for you to invest in the marketing side or in the go-to-market part of your product. Now, the key activities are the activities that are going to help you in getting that product out to the market, and not just getting it out to the market, but also to be able to deliver that product. So when we talk about key activities, we're talking about the processes that are necessary for you to be able to develop your product. So for instance, if you are in the business of mobile apps, okay, one key activity is web development or mobile app development, which is something that you need to have in-house, or at least you need to own in a way, because it's a key activity that allows you to develop your product. Now, another activity could be, for instance, accounting. But since accounting is not part of your core business, okay, this is something that should not be on the list of key activities, rather something that you can maybe later on or at any point in the process outsource to a company or to experts that are maybe have more expertise than you in that area. So the key activities are the activities that are necessary and are core for your business for you to be able to launch that business. So when we're talking about key activities, the different categories that you have the production. Of course, if you are producing on an industrial level, the product, whatever that product is, or even on the even if it's handcrafted or made by hand, etc., you have the production, which is a key activity in your case. Another key activity category is the problem solving. So you take a look at how your solution is solving problems for your customers, and then you say that this is a key activity for you. And finally, the platform or the network. Let's take, for instance, the example of Facebook. The platform of Facebook itself is a key activity, because it is what allows Facebook to channel that product of interest, which is actually not the platform, but what the platform delivers to the end user using that platform. So the key activities are extremely important for you to know what is core to you and keep it at least in-house, or if not in-house, at least own it, okay? And the non-core activities that you can easily outsource, maybe later on bring on board in-house, but they are not as core for you to be able to deliver your product as the key activities. Now, taking a look at the key partners. What are key partners? When we talk about partners, we're not only talking about the financial partners or the shareholders in a business. The partners are the people who are essential for you to help you boost your business on different levels. So the key partners could be, for instance, your suppliers. They could be your partners as in shareholders, okay, but they could also be an institution or an organization that caters for the same needs as you, and that could be, for instance, an important partner for you in your business, providing you with contacts or providing you with support or with advice, etc. Now, what are the motivations for partnerships? First, you have the optimization and economy, which actually is something that is very important, because these partners contribute in optimizing your economy and the economy of the area that you are actually functioning in. The reduction of risk and uncertainty, because you definitely have key partners and suppliers that are giving you the right products or the right material. Okay, you have the financial partners giving you the money needed to reduce the risks and uncertainty that you might have. You have the people advising you on how to do business or how to do better a certain type of business, and so on and so forth. And finally, the acquisition of particular resources and activities, because you have certain partners who are there to give you, for instance, they have good contacts that are crucial for the company, or that are going to be beneficial in terms of target audience for the company, or they can even provide you with the right resources in terms of team and of the talent that you need to develop your business. Now, finally, we take a look at the cost structure and what it actually entails for you to have a cost structure. You need to know that at any point you are going to start having, in case you do not have it yet, you are going to have costs incurred in your business. So it is better for you to have a clear cost structure that allows you to see where your money is being spent. Now, there are two types of businesses with regards to the costs themselves. You have the cost-driven business, which is actually the business that relies on reducing its own cost and the cost for the client himself. So, for instance, if you take the low-cost airlines like EasyJet or like Virgin Airlines, etc., you would sometimes have the chance to purchase a ticket from one country to another, or from one state to another in the States, for as low as maybe $10 or $30, etc. So how do they do this? How do they actually can provide? How are they able to provide such low costs while still being able to make any profit for themselves? So what they do is, for you to be able to pay that low for any service, what they do is they actually reduce costs at their end. So, for instance, you would want to check in your own luggages instead of having people at the counter, and that airline will be paying those people, or you wouldn't have any meal on the plane, or maybe if you do have a meal, you will need to pay for it, or if you want to purchase a bottle of water, etc. So here you just pay the minimum cost, and for them, they reduce as much as they can the costs on themselves to be able to give you that affordable price. But at the end of the day, the service that you are getting is not a full service, because you are more looking towards making more economy on the cost itself than on the overall experience. Now, the value-driven is exactly the opposite of a cost-driven business. The value-driven business is a business that's providing with its customers more value and quality, and where the customers do not look at the price itself as the blocking point or as the point of decision for their business. So basically, if we're still talking about the airlines, for instance, if you take the example of Emirates Airlines, you don't really go to Emirates Airlines and think that you want to save $10 or $20 or $50 or $100, because what you are getting back in return in terms of overall experience has much more value than the price itself. So here, for instance, you have, let's say, on board of the plane, you have people who are talking 10 languages. So whichever language you actually feel comfortable talking, you have someone who can address you in that language. You have a variety of menus that you can choose from. You have a variety of TV stations or of entertainment programs that you can actually choose from on your flight. So you see here, for instance, we're no longer looking at the cost, because the overall experience is much more rewarding than the cost itself. Now, another example would be a 5-star hotel. And anytime you would think of going to a 5-star hotel, you would actually be looking at the overall experience and not the price of this 5-star hotel. So you would expect your room to be large, your bed to be comfortable. You would expect to have a spa, to have maybe a massage service, a pool, etc., to have a good concierge service. The location of the hotel should be prime in terms of what you need from it, and so on and so forth. So this is the main definition, or let's say the main difference between a cost-driven business and a value-driven business, and how each one of them actually perceives the overall experience for the client himself. And the client can choose one or the other, knowing that in the first one, he cannot expect a very high quality or a lot of value. But in the other one, it should expect a very good value and should not be looking at the price. Now, the sample characteristics of the cost structure is you need to have fixed costs and variable costs, and you need to know the difference between each. Fixed costs are the costs that you actually pay regardless of your production or of how many units you have produced. So the fixed costs are something like the rental of an office or of an industry, etc. Knowing that if you are, for instance, renting an office, and if you come 1 day per month to this office, or if you come every day to the office, whether you have 1 person sitting in that office or 100 persons sitting in that office, or whether you actually produce 1 mobile application per month or 100 mobile applications, you are still paying the same cost for that office. So this is what we mean by fixed costs. These costs are independent of the production or the use of that cost itself. Now, the variable costs, on the other hand, are more dependent on the production itself rather than anything else. So the cost varies with the production that you are doing. Now, for instance, we'll take a look at the material. If you are producing leather bags, and for every 100 bags, you need, let's say, a ton of leather. Okay, you will know that in order for you to be able to produce 100 bags, you would need a ton of leather at $100. I'm just giving examples, of course. Okay, and then you know that if you want to produce 200 bags, you would need 2 tons of leather. So you see the cost of the material here, okay, is going to differ because it is directly dependent on the quantity that you are producing from the item, the product, or the service. Now, the economies of scale actually allow you to reduce an overall cost on these variable costs. So what we mean by that is that, for instance, you know that if you purchase 1 ton of leather at $100, and then in 6 months you would need another ton, okay, you would know that it's a total of $200. But then the supplier comes and tells you, but if you purchase those 2 tons right now at the same time, I'm going to give you a discount of 10% and you can take them for $180 instead of $200. So you see here, for instance, what you do is you purchase more and you reduce your own costs, whereas the supplier himself is actually making more margins, or let's say more profit on the volumes rather than on the margins of the material. Now let's take a look at 2 very nice case studies that illustrate a bit the business model and how successful it can become. This case study is going to be Apple, okay, and the innovation that they did with the iPod and the iTunes model. So we used to have mobile music in terms of a Walkman or Discman, where you actually would need to plug in or insert a disc or a cassette for you to be able to hear the music. And you would have 1 disc or 1 cassette that you had to change, okay, often for you to be able to actually listen to another cassette or another type of music. But now, with the introduction of the iPod, you no longer needed the accessories that are the album itself for you to be able to listen to music, because the music was directly on the iPod itself. Now, this was the first thing that was an innovation. The second thing was that you no longer needed to have only 1 album that you needed to switch every time you wanted to listen to another type of music, because you had all types of music on your iPod. Now, once Apple did that and introduced the iPod, what they did is they introduced the iTunes. Now, what was so groundbreaking and innovating about the iTunes model? The iTunes model was actually the first model to introduce single download music instead of downloading whole albums. So before iTunes, we would be able to access the internet and download an entire album to listen to. Now with the iTunes, you were no longer obliged to actually purchase the entire album. You could purchase as low as just 1 song or 1 type of music, okay, by paying 99 cents for that song itself. So you see, people were given actually more choice, and they were given more freedom at a lower cost, okay, for them to be able to select their own music and not having to purchase the entire album for them to listen to just one song out of that album. Now, when they did this, Apple, the real innovation of Apple was on that level, but actually the introduction of iTunes was for Apple to be able to sell more iPods. So you see here, they created this model whereby the iPod is at the core, and in order for them to sell more iPods, they created the iTunes, which was actually a motivation for people to purchase the iPod. Now, what they did at the later stage is to, replicate the iPod's approach to the iPhone itself. It became very similar to the iPod, but moreover, what they did is they actually opened the iPhone for developers to be able to develop their own mobile applications, and they gave them access to the App Store, whereby these developers would be able to sell their applications, and the users of the iPhone would be able to use those applications as they see fit. So you see the innovation and how the thinking process was behind it, and how it actually changed the way we perceive music and music downloads with the introduction of the iPod. The next business model case study we're going to take a look at is Amazon. So before Amazon got introduced, we used to have libraries where we could actually purchase books. So the libraries were physical, so you needed to go to the library for you to be able to purchase your book, and then you can also actually maybe check a few pages of the book before deciding to purchase it, and so on and so forth. Now, with the introduction of Amazon's business model, you were finally able to check that book online. Not only check it online, you could purchase it online, and it would be cheaper than if you go to a physical location for you to buy that book. Now, given that, you would also be able to check the reviews of people on that book, which was impossible for you to do in a physical location. And you were able to actually read the first few pages, just like you were in a normal library, in a physical library, checking the book on the shelf. So this was the first successful point of Amazon when it came to books and how they introduced books purchase online. Now, moving forward, what they did was they thought that since we could sell books online, let's try to sell about everything online. So they expanded to have everything that is laptops or computers or something that has to do with technology or accessories or clothing, etc. So any type of products you wanted, you could actually find on Amazon, and along with the users' reviews, and along with the prices, and along with the discounts, etc. Now, moving forward, what they said is, okay, since we are able to sell online as many products as we want, why not open a small or allow small merchants to actually start selling their own products on Amazon? So what they did is they created a small marketplace for these merchants to be able to sell their products on Amazon. So if you, for instance, have a product that you would like to sell, but you don't have the means to set up shops or maybe to create a whole e-commerce website, what you would be able to do is to have a small marketplace on Amazon for you to be able to sell your products. So you see how it has started with a small innovation, which was the online bookstore market, and then it expanded to have people also adding content and adding products to that platform. They also introduced their web services, which allow you to host your website, for instance, on Amazon. So if you are a small merchant, you would be able to have your whole website solution hosted on Amazon, as well as if you want to choose to have a marketplace on Amazon, that was possible for you. Now, a small recap about the business model, and then I will leave you with some thoughts to end this presentation with. Now, how can entrepreneurs actually use the business model canvas? First, what they can do is establish a as-is and to-be business model, And in that, they would draw two business models, the one that shows the current situation and one that shows the ideal situation, or let's say the situation of the company where it wants to be after 1 year or 2 years or 5 years. And then they can do a comparison between today and where they want to be, and check out what the weaknesses are and how they can work on those weaknesses. Another example or another use is the reality check, for you to see how close your ideas are to the reality, or how far they are, and how you can actually get them closer to reality. The third use is establish a common language across the team, because then the team would have a view of that business model, of the objectives of the business model, and make sure they are all working in the same direction to achieve those objectives, hence establishing this common language across the entire team. It can easily illustrate how it makes financial sense, of course, because you have your revenue streams and you have your cost structure, and then you can make a comparison between both and see whether you are actually making profit or you are going to make a profit in the longer run. It translates the business plan into business processes, because the business plan is all about ideas. It's an executive presentation of things, okay? And the translation of that business plan into business processes that are actually more hands-on, they are more real, okay? And they help you determine how you can actually turn that business model or that business plan into a successful business model. And finally, the design and align, because the business model canvas would allow you to design your product, or let's say your prototype, and then align or adapt according to the changes that are required to be done. Now, a small recap on the business model components. You need to know that at the bottom or at the core of your business model, you have value. It is what actually creates value, what answers needs, and what becomes a solution to a problem. So first, you have to create this value through the products or services and through the value proposition that you are going to offer for your clients. Then you have the value delivery, so how you are going to get that value through to the customer, okay, which is done through the systems, the resources, the processes, the parts, the channels, and the brand. Okay, and finally, you have the value capture, which is how you are going to actually translate that value into something financial for yourself, which is something that relies on the revenue model and your business plan, your business model. Now, having explained everything about the business model, it looks very nice, but the question is, what next? So what are we going to do next about it? The easiest answer is for you to actually start drawing or start trying the business model of yours. So what you do is you actually model, or you actually plot it on a poster and hang it so that and everybody can have access to it and can have a good look at it, and then sketch out or start actually drawing your business model. When we say start drawing your business model, we mean start writing down the elements that you think are important for your business. Now, as you move forward, you are going to realize that some things that you thought were crucial are finally not that crucial. So you would be able to amend that accordingly on your business model. So that's it for this session. I hope you found it useful. I'm going to leave you with some final thoughts that are quite interesting. And this final thought is actually said by Tim O'Reilly, who is the CEO of O'Reilly's. And he says that there's not a single business model. There are really a lot of opportunities and a lot of options, and we just have to discover all of them. Now, I would take it a step further and say we don't need to discover all of them. We just want to have enough opportunities for us to be able to create a business, develop it, and sustain it within the markets that we are trying to reach.